Hi everyone, welcome to this video. My name is Phil and I'm a senior lecturer in astrophysics at the University of Lincoln. Now in this video I want to go back to planet formation, but this time round I actually want to have a look at the initial temperature of a planet straight after formation. I'm going to look at deriving an equation for that, and then also have a look at a couple of examples in the solar system to see what sort of temperature those planets might be straight after formation. So, just to recap, if you can't remember or haven't done planet formation before, again, I've got some separate videos on this, but planets form in a disk around a central star as that's kind of forming. So at this point here, we don't actually have a main sequence star. It's not generating energy due to fusion of hydrogen, but it's kind of, the star itself is still growing, but it's got a disk of material around it, mostly gas with some dust. And the planets form in that disk until the actual central star becomes a true star and starts fusing hydrogen. It will then have a kind of a stellar wind which then blows away the gas, leaving just kind of like the dusty material. And at that point, the planet formation kind of growth rate drops off quite a bit. But anyway, that's a completely separate video. So what happens here is our planets are in this disk, they're accumulating material, so we would call that kind of accretion. And as a result of that, obviously their gravitational field strengthens, so there's more gravitational force acting on the actual planet itself, which is going to compress the material, and that raises the planet's temperature. If you compress something, then we're going to raise its temperature. The internal pressures are increasing. So that's kind of what we're going to start with, the first kind of assumption there, that as they grow, then the internal pressure is going to increase due to the increase in gravity. So that gravitational potential energy, as it's growing in the disk, is released during this contraction, is converted into heat, basically. So the gravitational potential energy released during that contraction of the material converted into heat, and that's kind of what we want to have a look at. That will give us our initial temperature after formation once it's stopped kind of growing. So the first assumption we're going to make is that these planetary embryos, these planetesimals, there's a few different names we can kind of call these because they're not true planets as they're kind of growing and accreting. They're all going to have the same density. So we're making that assumption there to simplify things. They've all got the same density regardless of their size. So this is then the heat produced. So the amount of heat produced in the collisions, as they're growing, because obviously it's the collision of material as they kind of grow, is equal to the change in the gravitational potential energy. So on the left-hand side there, you've got the heat produced, and on the right-hand side, you've got the gravitational potential energy. We're going to come back to this and exchange out the mass we're basically going to remove mass and put it in terms of radius in density instead to make it kind of a bit simpler to work with. So the next assumption is that this planetary embryo is going to be spherical. Our density is the same across them all, and that means that the mass of the planetary embryo can be given in this form here in terms of radius and density. We're going to put that back in the previous equation a little bit later on. We're also going to put this back in the previous equation as well, because this is the change in mass as it's growing. So we're making the assumption that the collisions as it's growing, they're not strong enough to break it up, and therefore it's going to grow with this rate here, so this change in mass. So we can exchange that in, and we can actually do it in terms of a change of radius instead. So we took mass out, so we can kind of go back to that original equation there. So if we've then got our energy released equation on the left hand side at the very bottom, we can then exchange our mass of our embryo by the previous equation, which I've highlighted in green there. We can also substitute in the mass change during the growth, which is the blue one there, and again that removes the mass from the energy released equation and puts it in terms of radius and density instead. So there we go. If we do that, we end up with the right hand side there in the blue. The masses are now removed and it's in terms of radius and density instead. Now what we want to do here is work out the total amount of heat released during the formation. So as it's grown from pretty much a zero radius up to its final radius. So that means we're going to integrate, we have this integral here. So we've got the final radius, we're going to integrate from 0 to the RP there to get our total energy or total heat released during this formation process. And if we do that, we get the following at the bottom there. So we integrate that, it's now in terms of the actual radius of the planet. So if we've got Earth, we can just put in the radius of the planet there, the density of the planet, and we can get the amount of energy that's released there. So what we're now going to do is we're going to assume that the planet's temperature, the internal energy of the planet, which is given here, which is the specific heat times the planet temperature times its mass, is going to be equal to essentially the energy released during the formation process. So we're going to balance those two out, and then we can rearrange for the temperature. So on the left hand side there, we've got the internal energy of the planet, which we just mentioned, and then we've got the heat released during the formation on the other side. So to get the temperature of the planet straight after formation, we just want to rearrange that for T, for temperature, and then we can then determine what that temperature would be given its radius and its density, and obviously the specific heat as well. So we've rearranged that. We've also then removed the mass out again by putting in the mass of a sphere. We're assuming these planetary embryos are spherical, so it's in terms of radius and density. This then gives us our temperature for the planet straight after formation. So we just need the radius of the planet, the density, and the specific heat as well. So there we go, we've got the equation there. So what we're going to do now is we can actually look at some examples in our own solar system to see what temperature they might have been straight after formation. So for example, we've got Venus here. So if we put the values in for Venus, we end up with just over 40,000 Kelvin straight after formation. And obviously over time that's going to cool down because it will radiate that heat out into space. But if we do the same thing for Mars, we see that Mars is significantly cooler. So it's just under 9,500 Kelvin. And this would explain why Mars no longer has a molten core, really. It was much cooler straight after formation. So as it's cooled down over time, then it's more likely to solidify earlier on than some of the bigger planets. So thank you for watching. If you enjoy the video or find them helpful, then do consider becoming a member of the channel. There's extra videos in the members section, but there's also helps support the channel as well. So thank you for watching.